Discover the incredible truth: 7 amazing ways God's plan will transform your life forever. The rain pattered against the diner windows, a steady rhythm that echoed the relentless pulse of Sarah's life. At 38, she was caught in the whirlwind of routine, coffee pots clanging, plates scraping, and the muffled chatter of regulars who had no idea of her dreams. Each breakfast served felt like a step deeper into a life planned out for her by the weight of family expectations. Yet beneath the surface, within the folds of her heart, lay a flicker of aspiration, a yearning to don scrubs and care for others like the hero she idolized, her grandmother. But dreams collided with realities. Bills piled on the kitchen table like unwanted guests, and whispers from friends and family painted her ambitions as frivolous. "Why would you want to go back to school at your age?" they'd say, their disbelief a chilling wind. Could she carve a path when each step felt like climbing an insurmountable mountain? The thought of facing judgment twisted her gut, a battle between her heart's call and societal norms that suffocated her spirit. It was on a gray, rainy evening while sorting through her grandmother's possessions that Sarah's revelation began. Tucked away beneath an old quilt, she uncovered a leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with time. Each entry pulsated with life, recounting stories of her grandmother's valor as a nurse during a devastating flu outbreak. Sarah got lost in the words, nearly hearing the laughter and sorrow echo through the ink. Her grandmother was not merely a caregiver, she was a warrior against an indifferent world, a fight that cracked open something deep inside of Sarah. She felt adrenaline surge, hope rekindled like a torch reignited amidst a darkened room, but even as enthusiasm took soar, the boundary of doubt loomed larger than the mountain before her. Enrolling in community college, she faced the quizzical glances of young students and the sidelong skepticism of older faculty who questioned her decision to embark on this fresh journey. At her age, they seemed to echo, scratching at her already frayed confidence. Nights at the diner thickened with their dismissive laughter, leaving her feeling small and foolish for aiming to rewrite her narrative. With each shift spent listening to their thoughts, she felt her dream teetering on a shaky precipice, longing to flourish but constantly threatened by their skepticism. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Emma, a retired nurse who had families of her own but found joy in giving back to younger souls, seemed a beacon amidst the turmoil. Together, they shared stories in the diner's quiet corners, Emma's laughter mingling with the clanking of dishes as she guided Sarah through struggles she'd faced, fuel for hope. Yet with each flicker of encouragement, uncertainty lurked around the corner. What would her family think? The hollow creak of their silence behind her did little to instill confidence. As her co-workers confronted her one fateful evening, challenging the validation of her dreams, she'd never felt so torn. Their harsh words slammed against her like icy rain, and in that moment, the distinction between her heart's longing and the weight of her old life became unbearably clear. Standing amid her fears, she faced a choice: retreat into the expected, or leap into the unknown. The agonizing decision weighed heavily as she recalled her grandmother's bravery, a call to embrace the very dream that suddenly felt both horrifying and exhilarating. The storm brewed within, a climax of emotions pushing her toward an uncertain tomorrow. What if her pursuit could not only liberate her but also inspire those trapped in the same struggle? As the night grew darker, Sarah's resolve clashed with the storm of old opinions, leaving her standing on the precipice of a life that felt ready to spill over the edge. The following day, the aroma of brewed coffee mingled with the dampness of the lingering rain, wrapping around Sarah like a heavy blanket. At the diner, laughter and chatter surged around her, a false sense of warmth surrounding an internal battle that raged beneath the surface. She scooped up eggs and bacon, moving mechanically, her mind far away in a different universe where dreams could become realities. As she placed plates in front of customers, their mundane small talk droned on like background noise, punctuated by the sudden clang of cutlery and the whistle of the espresso machine. Emma hadn't come by yet, and Sarah felt the weight of that absence pressing down on her chest. What if today was the day she finally embraced her dreams? What if she transitioned from serving plates to serving lives? The thought propelled her, igniting a flicker of determination that sparked deep within. Then, during a brief lull between rushes, Sarah took a deep breath, reached for the leather-bound journal tucked inside her apron pocket, and skimmed its pages for a guiding compass. The words flowed like a current, stirring her resolve. Every act of care has the power to change a life, her grandmother had written, and in that moment, Sarah realized it wasn't just about her journey, it was about the lives she could touch. With each workday, she began taking small steps. She signed up for study groups, ignored judgmental scoffs, and asked questions at every available opportunity. Even in the crowded classrooms filled with youthful energy, she connected her heartbeats with the rhythms of nursing, a heartbeat that echoed her grandmother's legacy. Yet, doubt was a persistent shadow. Even with Emma's encouragement echoing in her mind, moments of insecurity lurked at the edges of her newfound resolve. Her mother's words crept back in, a whisper of disapproval. "You're too old for this now, focus on stability." The thought would strike her, causing Sarah to falter, questioning whether her longing was genuine ambition or simply a childish fantasy. One afternoon, after an exhausting shift, Sarah gathered her courage and invited Emma for a cup of tea after work. Under the muted glow of the diner's fluorescent lights, Sarah dove into her personal struggles, revealing the inner turmoil that clouded her aspirations. Emma listened intently, occasionally nodding as if whispering silent support through her understanding gaze. "You know, Sarah," Emma began, her voice softly reassuring, "it's never too late to pursue what you love. Life is inherently unpredictable, and you owe it to yourself to chase this. Just remember, others' doubts can't extinguish the flame within you." Those words wrapped around Sarah, and for the first time, she felt a flicker of strength amid her insecurities. That evening, Sarah stood before a gathering of fellow classmates in the community college cafeteria. She felt an inexplicable pull to share her journey, to unveil how deeply she had been ignited by her grandmother's spirit. Fear gripped her heart, the idea of vulnerability ignited a storm within her as she stepped onto the small stage, the audience's eyes locked onto her, a sea of expectant faces. She felt her pulse quicken, the adrenaline surging as she took a breath. "I'm Sarah," she began, trembling, vulnerability weaving through her words. "And I believe in the power of dreams, no matter how old we are." As she spoke, she could see the skepticism flicker and transform into admiration among some. Just then, a voice shouted from the back, "What do you know about real life?" The sentiment rang cruelly through the air, and her heart sank momentarily. But Sarah felt a force rise within her, and in that moment, she chose to confront. "What I know about real life is that it's never too late to step into your purpose." The resolute clarity in her voice surprised her. It was not just anger directed at her naysayers, but defiance against every doubt that had once held her back. And in that brief exchange, something shifted. Eyes softened, whispers turned into contemplative silence, the kind that suggests potential change. As she took her seat, a spark of validation ignited inside her. Could she truly harness this transformative energy? Each moment was a threshold, each interaction a reminder of the growing connection to her aspirations. The answers to her internal conflicts felt as tantalizingly close as the steam from her coffee cup, yet, as Sarah withdrew from the stage, she understood the road ahead might not be smooth. There would be more conversations, challenges, and moments of doubt, but now she was prepared to face them head-on. The storm hadn't settled, it was merely gearing up for a deeper confrontation. Behind her newfound courage lurked even bigger questions. What awaited her as she ventured further down this path? Would her family embrace her change, or would they hold her beliefs hostage to their own fears? Determined to discover those answers, Sarah looked beyond the fog of uncertainty, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. The moment dawned for her to unearth the truth about what success meant for her. With her heart intertwined with purpose, she took one last sip of her coffee, ready to embrace the swell of life crashing toward her. The next morning, the diner buzzed with its usual rhythm, a medley of sizzling bacon and the hum of morning conversations. But today, Sarah found herself standing at the threshold of a new reality. The flickering ember of her determination had ignited into an unquenchable flame, and as she poured coffee, she felt the energy coursing through her veins. After her shift ended, the diner's early afternoon lull gave her a moment of respite, but Sarah's mind was racing with the implications of her recent public declaration. She wrestled with the remnants of doubt, but they were easily brushed aside now. Emma had planted the seeds of self-belief, and this was no longer just a fleeting thought, it was a commitment. Sarah decided then to apply for a volunteer position at a nearby health clinic. The decision felt monumental, an opportunity to immerse herself in the world she had dreamt of for so long, despite still feeling like an outsider. Her experience at the diner had taught her the value of connection, of moments shared over plates of food. Now, she envisioned those connections morphing into something larger, more impactful. As she walked into the clinic, a wave of anxiety washed over her. She steeled her resolve, reminding herself of Emma's encouragement. "It's never too late," she muttered under her breath. The reception area was swamped with patients, each with their stories, their struggles. It felt overwhelming, but it was the exact kind of chaos she longed to navigate. The nurse manager welcomed her with open arms, intrigued by Sarah's enthusiasm. "We appreciate any help we can get," the nurse said, handing her a lanyard adorned with the clinic's logo. For Sarah, wearing that badge felt like draping herself in a new identity. Her first few days were filled with logistics, stocking supplies, sterilizing instruments, learning the layout of the clinic. Each task, though seemingly trivial, anchored her closer to the path she wished to pursue. The routine invited her to uncover layers of her ambition, each one peeling back to reveal a stronger conviction, yet, moments of despair still lingered, fueled by her mother's skepticism. In quiet corners of her mind, doubts grew, whispering accusations that what she was doing was a waste of time. "You're just a waitress, Sarah," the voice echoed. During breaks, she would sometimes find herself staring out the clinic window, wondering the extent of her ambition and if the colors of her dreams were only shadows after all. Then, as if reading her thoughts, one of the nurses approached her one day, a seasoned veteran named Linda. "You know," Linda started, pausing as she cleaned up a spilled vial of antiseptic, "every great nurse was once someone who stood right where you are. It's okay to feel scared. What matters is that you're showing up." Those words sank into Sarah, instilling a sense of camaraderie. Linda continued to share stories of her own journey, battles fought, strengths discovered. The vulnerability in Linda's experiences struck a chord within Sarah. It ignited a small flame of hope that spread warmth through her uncertainties. But just as she began to relish this new sense of belonging, a sudden confrontation arose. One late afternoon, as she sorted through charts, Sarah overheard a conversation between two experienced nurses about the upcoming training session for new volunteers. "Why even bother? They're just feeding her ego," one remarked, their words slicing through the air with razor-sharp disdain. In that moment, Sarah felt ill-prepared. Could she withstand the scrutiny? The thought of proving herself, battling against whispers and assumptions, thrust her into turmoil. Yet, the very image of her grandmother's brave, compassionate spirit flooded her thoughts, echoing her grandmother's belief in nurturing the vulnerable. With renewed fervor, Sarah took a deep breath and decided to confront the sentiment. She sought out the nurses who had doubted her, engaging them in dialogue, presenting the lived experiences that fueled her passion for nursing. "I'm not here to feed my ego, I'm here because I care," she declared, her voice steady. The tension in the room crackled around her, and for a moment, the world paused as eyes locked onto her, questioning yet intrigued. Would their perceptions of her shift? Would she emerge from the pit of ridicule renewed, or would their opinions confine her once more? Sarah knew she stood at a critical juncture. She had to convince them, not just of her commitment to nursing, but of her belief in her own worth. As she walked away, heart pounding, she felt a shift within herself, a burgeoning confidence nudging her toward defying her fears. Each step was a foray into her own self-validation, testing the waters of her resilience. And with every inch she took, the sense of urgency surged. What transformations awaited her now that she had dared to speak out? Would she become the catalyst of her own revolution, or would she falter once more? Sarah squared her shoulders, resolute that this was merely an early skirmish in the war of her burgeoning destiny. The showdown was just beginning. As Sarah left the conversation behind, her mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Each step away from the nurse's station felt heavy with anticipation. Had she made a monumental misstep, or had she finally found her voice? The weight of uncertainty pressed down on her, but for the first time, it mingled with a flicker of pride that in the days that followed, Sarah immersed herself in her duties at the clinic. Each task felt more significant, each patient she encountered reinforcing her conviction. She began to think of herself not just as a volunteer but as a prospective nurse. The more she engaged with patients, the more she understood the nuances of their needs, the quiet fears behind their illnesses, the unspoken gratitude in their smiles. She relished these connections. They sparked a fire within her, urging her to dig deeper into her aspirations. Quiet moments at the clinic became opportunities for introspection. During her breaks, she revisited her grandmother's wisdom, affirming the importance of genuine care in nursing. But lingering doubts began to creep in again, especially after overhearing two other staff members discussing her recent exchange with the doubters. She thinks she's a star now. Just a matter of time before she learns her place, one of them said dismissively. Her heart sank. If she wanted to truly belong, she needed to shake off the stigma surrounding her new role. That evening, Sarah returned home and sat on her bed, staring at the walls that had witnessed countless dreams and disappointments. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, laced with skepticism. "This is just a phase, Sarah. You'll realize it soon enough." The statement plagued her, but she fought against its insinuation. She wouldn't let it dictate her ambitions. She resolved to embolden her determination instead. Realizing the need for growth, she sought out workshops for nursing volunteers in the area. She spent evenings researching online courses and reading about patient care, adamantly filling her days with knowledge. This pursuit of learning stripped away at her insecurities, revealing hidden competencies she hadn't yet acknowledged. With every new fact, every skill learned, she crafted an unassailable foundation for her future. The next week brought an unexpected challenge: an emergency at the clinic. A patient had collapsed due to an allergic reaction, and the experienced nurses sprang into action. Panic flared in the air, yet Sarah felt unusually calm. This was her moment. Her heart raced not from fear, but from the desire to help. As the nurses operated around her, Sarah quickly grabbed the emergency kit and positioned herself near them, watching intently, absorbing every detail. When one of the nurses threw her a glance, Sarah blurted out, "I can help. Tell me what to do." To her surprise, the nurse entrusted her with a task in the chaos. It was a small responsibility, but it ignited something deep within Sarah, a burgeoning realization that she was a pivotal part of this team, not just an invisible shadow. Although her involvement in the emergency was brief, it marked a significant turning point in Sarah's perception of her place in the clinic. When the patient stabilized, applause erupted from the staff. Sarah felt an overwhelming wave of belonging and pride wash over her. For the first time, she understood that she wasn't just fitting into a role, she was creating one designed by her passion and commitment. Encouraged by her experience, she approached Linda the next day, eagerly seeking mentorship. The seasoned nurse was impressed by Sarah's enthusiasm and agreed to help her navigate formal pathways toward nursing school, a direction Sarah hadn't yet considered. But just as Sarah felt her momentum building, a haunting message surfaced in her mind, a warning tethered to her ambitions. "You're still just a waitress at the diner, you don't belong here." The voice crowded her, instilling doubt just as swiftly as confidence had surged. She faced a formidable decision: either anchor herself in her newfound identity or allow the past to pull her under once more. As she stared into the clinic's bustling reception area, Sarah felt the pressure of her choice heavy upon her. Would she step forward into the light of her potential, or retreat into the shadows where her fears lurked? A reckoning awaited her, and the decision loomed on the horizon, beckoning her toward the next chapter of her journey. The next morning, Sarah awoke with a curious mix of determination and trepidation. Her resolve had been amplified by Linda's mentorship offer, yet the persistent whispers of doubt hovered like a dark cloud. She dressed in her volunteer scrubs, each piece of fabric a reminder of her commitment to embrace this unfamiliar identity. Stepping out onto the familiar streets, she made a conscious decision to focus on her goals, pushing aside the memories of the diner and her mother's scorn. Arriving at the clinic, she found herself gravitating toward the nurse's station, eager to absorb every ounce of knowledge and experience within those walls. Today would mark her first official shadowing experience with Linda, and anticipation coursed through her veins like electric current. As she watched Linda interact with patients, the graceful confidence she exuded was intoxicating. Each diagnosis, each empathetic response, illuminated a pathway that felt increasingly viable for Sarah. Linda noticed Sarah's gaze and encouraged her to engage. Don't just observe, Sarah. Ask questions. Dive deeper, she advised, her tone firm yet nurturing. Sarah hesitated at first, imploring herself to find the right moment. Her internal dialogue wrestled with the fear of seeming presumptuous. Eventually, however, she raised her hand timidly, interrupting a discussion about treatment protocols. How did you know what to prioritize in that case? The instant the words left her mouth, a rush of vulnerability washed over her, yet she felt empowered by her willingness to step up. Linda smiled, pleased. Great question. It comes down to assessing risk. Some situations demand immediate action, and being tuned into the details can be the difference between life and death. The complexity of this profession fascinated Sarah. It was not just about following procedures, but about understanding the intricate tapestry of patient care. This realization ignited her passion anew. The day unfolded with new challenges. Sarah witnessed the toll of relentless work on the nurses, the exhaustion etched on their faces. In one particularly tense moment, a patient exhibited signs of distress. Linda turned to Sarah, urging her to help gather information for the patient's chart. You can do this. Trust yourself, she encouraged, hands trembling with a blend of anxiety and exhilaration. Sarah approached the patient. Can you tell me what's hurting? The patient managed a weak smile between labored breaths, offering a glimmer of hope. It was in this moment that Sarah sensed the shift within herself. This wasn't merely a job, but a vocation she could pour her heart into. However, when she relayed the information back to Linda, an unexpected surge of doubt slipped in. What if I didn't do it right? What if I missed something? The specter of her past loomed large, threatening to undermine her burgeoning confidence. Linda, observing the internal conflict, placed a reassuring hand on Sarah's shoulder. Mistakes happen. What's essential is how we learn and adapt. You're evolving, Sarah. Embrace it. As the afternoon gave way to evening, Sarah found solace in interaction with her fellow volunteers. They shared their fears and aspirations, mirroring her own journey in ways that felt both comforting and daunting. A camaraderie began to blossom among them, filled with shared challenges and collective growth. But with deepening connection came the realization that the whispers of her past still lingered. The waitress identity clashed violently with the burgeoning nurse she envisioned becoming. Later that evening, as she settled into bed, a surge of clarity washed over her. She grabbed her journal and penned her thoughts, reflecting on each challenge, each lesson learned that day. It became evident that stepping into her new identity required relinquishing parts of her old self. But the question remained pressing: could she fully embrace this transformation, or would the weight of her past pull her back? With hopeful determination pulsing through her, she closed the journal, knowing there would be a reckoning. The next day would demand more than mere observation. It demanded action, a confrontation of her doubts head-on. The true test awaited her. Would she be prepared to shed her past and seize her future? The next morning, Sarah woke up with a clarity that felt both exhilarating and daunting. The chaos of self-doubt had settled into a resolute determination. Today, she would not only observe, she would operate as an integral part of the team. With this new mindset, she donned her scrubs with a sense of purpose, mentally rehearsing the tasks she might face during her shift. As she entered the clinic, a familiar rush of adrenaline surged within her. The nurses were enveloped in an urgent rhythm, attending to patients with the practiced ease of seasoned professionals. Sarah could feel the pulse of the clinic, the cries for help, the murmurs of concern, and the ever-present need for compassionate care. Each sound pulled her closer to the realization that she was no longer a spectator, she was a participant in this pivotal realm of healthcare. Her first assignment of the day had her assisting in triage. Linda, recognizing Sarah's eagerness, assigned her to take vital signs. "This is where you begin to connect with the patients," she said, guiding Sarah to the room. The heavy door opened to a gentle hum of anxiety, as Sarah encountered her first patient, a frail elderly man with weary eyes. With a steadying breath, Sarah approached him. "Hi there, I'm Sarah. I'll be helping you today." After a moment of hesitation, the man handed her his trust through a faint smile. Sarah felt an unexpected warmth rush through her as she carefully wrapped the cuff of the blood pressure monitor around his arm. As the numbers flicked back and forth, she marveled at the science behind every heartbeat and breath. For a moment, the fear of failure slipped away, replaced by a profound sense of clarity. Reporting the results, the man expressed his concern about feeling unwell. In that moment, an instinct sparked within her. Was this a moment where she could make a tangible difference? "Let us see what else we can find out," she said, a newfound confidence lacing her voice. The interaction uplifted her spirits, sending her into the next phase of her duties with renewed vigor. However, as the clinics continued to bustle with more patients, the specter of doubt began to creep back in. In the midst of helping Linda prep for a procedure, the whispers resurfaced. "What if I'm not truly qualified for this? What if I'm just pretending to belong?" Linda, perceptive as ever, caught the flicker of uncertainty in Sarah's eyes. "You have intuition, Sarah," she remarked while organizing sterile tools. "This is about instinct just as much as it is about knowledge. Trust yourself." A penchant for self-critique bubbled beneath the surface. Could she truly trust her instincts when they had been forged in the fires of her past mistakes? Each moment of self-doubt felt like an anchor dragging her back. Nevertheless, an ember of hope ignited inside her. Perhaps her past had equipped her with valuable empathy, a wealth of experience unique to her. As the day progressed, Sarah faced a new challenge. A patient with a complicated medical history required clarity and compassion. It was her opportunity to step up. Summoning her courage, Sarah began asking the patient open-ended questions, skillfully guiding the conversation to unlock vital information while displaying genuine empathy. This felt different, it felt meaningful. Yet as the interaction unfolded, a panic surged through her. What if I misinterpret something crucial? What if I can't deliver the care they need? But she pushed the doubt aside, channeling what she had learned from Linda and her fellow volunteers. That evening, as she documented her reflections in her journal, she felt the pages become a mirror reflecting her struggles yet also the spark of growth. Her previous identity as a waitress, though flawed, had shaped her understanding of service and connection. Perhaps her past was not a liability but a foundation upon which she could build, but this was not the end of her evolution. In the depths of her thoughts, she realized a profound truth: embracing her new identity was not just about shedding her past, it required her to integrate her experiences into a richer narrative. As she closed her journal, a fire ignited within her. Tomorrow would challenge her to confront another layer of self-doubt. Would she fully step into the nurse she aspired to be, or retreat back into the shadows of her insecurities? The question echoed ominously: what challenges awaited her next, and would she rise to meet them? The morning sun filtered through the windows of the clinic, casting a warm glow over the sterile environment. Sarah felt emboldened as she entered, the previous day's revelations echoing in her mind like a steady heartbeat. Today would be different. Today, she would tackle her responsibilities with newfound clarity and determination. Her first task involved shadowing one of the more experienced nurses, Karen, who was known for her sharp instincts and effective patient care. As they entered the treatment room, the hum of machines and the soft murmur of voices enveloped them. Sarah's heart raced with anticipation. "All right, Sarah, keep an eye on the 4 fluids. I'll take care of the patient examination, but I want you to be ready for anything," Karen instructed, her tone firm yet encouraging. Focus surged through Sarah. She observed Karen's confident demeanor as she spoke to the patient, an elderly woman with a diagnosis that required delicate handling. There was a grace in Karen's interaction, one that blended medical expertise with genuine compassion. Sarah understood that it wasn't enough just to execute tasks. To truly belong in this world, she had to connect with people on a deeper level. After the examination, Karen turned to Sarah, who was still absorbing the interaction. "Did you see how I approached her? It's about building trust. Patients need to feel safe." This struck a chord within Sarah. Her past experiences, often dismissed as mere waitressing encounters, had equipped her with a profound understanding of trust and service. The people she had interacted with over the years were more than just customers, they were individuals with stories, fears, and vulnerabilities. The next challenge emerged as a patient with behavioral issues needed to be calmed before undergoing treatment. Sarah's pulse quickened. She had never dealt with an angry individual in a clinical setting before. But Karen, sensing her hesitation, leaned forward. "Trust your instincts, Sarah. Remember, everyone has a story. Find out what's troubling him." Taking a deep breath, Sarah approached the patient and made eye contact. "Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm here to help. Can you tell me what's bothering you today?" The patient, initially resistant, softened slightly at her approach. As they spoke, Sarah recalled her own struggles and the fragility of life she had witnessed. Memories flooded her mind, the lady who had entrusted her with her fears before her last meal, the man whose laughter had masked debilitating loneliness. Each recollection fueled her empathy, enabling her to listen without judgment as the patient unspooled his narrative of frustration and fear regarding his treatment. Within moments, the charged atmosphere of anger began to dissipate, replaced by a mutual understanding anchored in respect. In that instance, Sarah recognized her pivotal moment, a convergence of past and present. She was no longer just a waitress or a hesitant trainee, she was someone capable of empathy and healing, someone who could affirm a person's dignity in their most vulnerable state. As the shift progressed, however, the specter of doubt loomed yet again. What if, despite her progress, she made a critical mistake? The nagging voice in her head threatened to unravel her newfound confidence. She couldn't ignore it any longer. This was the crucible that would define her. That afternoon, during lunch, Sarah confided her fears to Annie, another nurse, who had also once doubted her path. "You'll face obstacles no matter where you go," Annie reflected. "But those challenges shape us. Embrace them. They're not just something to overcome, but chances to refine who you are." A flicker of understanding ignited in Sarah. This paradigm shift was not merely about surviving each shift but thriving amidst trials. She began to see the lurking doubts not as anchors but stepping stones towards her evolution. As she prepared to return to her duties, a resolve settled within her. She would face each challenge not with trepidation, but an eagerness to learn and grow. Tomorrow brings its own challenges, doesn't it? She mused to herself, determination settling in her bones. What will I discover about myself next? With that thought echoing in her mind, she stepped back into the bustling clinic, ready to prove to herself that she was not just fitting into this world, she was beginning to carve her place within it. The following morning, Sarah arrived at the clinic prepared to embrace the day. The echoes of yesterday's triumphs and struggles fueled her determination like embers igniting a flame. In her mind, the recurring mantra thrummed: she was not merely a trainee but a burgeoning part of the healing process. As she entered the bustling environment, however, a sense of foreboding settled in her stomach. She spotted Karen across the room, surrounded by a flurry of nurses and patients. A sudden realization washed over Sarah: today, she would be expected to take on tasks more independently. The weight of expectation felt heavy, and an acute awareness of her inexperience threatened to pull her down. "Sarah!" Karen called, her voice cutting through the noise. "I need you to assist me with a new patient in room 2. She's recovering from surgery and is a bit disoriented. So, stay sharp." A surge of adrenaline coursed through her veins. This was at the test of her confidence and skills. As they approached the room, Sarah's heart began to race. Inside, a middle-aged woman lay in bed, confusion clouding her expression as she mumbled incoherently. All right, Sarah, Karen said, guiding her forward. You'll help me monitor her vitals. And if she becomes distressed, remember your training, engage with her calmly. At that moment, Sarah's mind was a whirlpool of competing thoughts. What if she misread the woman's vitals? What if there was an emergency? But then, she recalled Annie's words. This was an opportunity, not a burden. With a steadying breath, she took her place beside the bed. Hi there, I'm Sarah, she said gently, leaning closer. We're here to make sure you're comfortable. Can you tell me your name? The woman's eyes snapped to Sarah's, a flicker of recognition coursing through her confusion. The interaction reminded Sarah of a childhood story, one where a lost traveler found solace in the kindness of strangers. She focused on the small details, the softness of her voice, the reassuring pat on the woman's hand, and the focused precision as she recorded the readings and ensured the line was running smoothly. A moment of clarity washed over her. This was her essence, bridging the clinical world with compassionate care. As the patient calmed, Sarah felt a surge of confidence. Yet, deep within her, a gnawing fear lingered. What if this connection was fragile? What if it broke under pressure? The pivotal moment arrived when the patient suddenly sat up, panic tightening her features. I need to get out of here. I can't be here. Instinctively, Sarah stepped in, recalling every piece of advice she had received. You're safe here, she said, anchoring her tone with conviction. We're helping you recover. Let us breathe together. She held eye contact, channeling calmness through her voice. As they breathed, Sarah felt a shift, an unspoken bond formed in the shared vulnerability. It was less about relying on her training and more about harnessing her instincts, drawing strength from a well of empathy long suppressed. When the crisis diffused, Karen approached with a knowing smile. You handled that beautifully. You've got a natural touch, Sarah. The affirmation lit up Sarah's insides, fueling her resolve. This is who she was meant to be. Yet doubt crept back into her mind as she prepped for her next task. What if her instincts weren't enough? As she shifted to the next patient, the looming truth sat heavy on her shoulders. The clinic was filled with lives that stood on a knife edge of vulnerability, and she was part of that delicate balance. Tomorrow would bring more surprises, more challenges, and perhaps another lesson waiting to unfold. Would she continue to rise, or would she falter when pushed into deeper waters? Her heartbeat quickened as she glanced around the room, resolve fighting against uncertainty. It was time to address the real question: what lay beneath the surface of her developing confidence, and what transformative revelations awaited her in the days ahead. The morning light filtered through the clinic windows, casting a warm glow that contrasted sharply with the icy chill of apprehension that gripped Sarah. She had resolved to shake off any remnants of doubt from the previous day. Elation from her success wrestled with the fear of facing consequences if she stumbled again. Today felt different. She sensed the stakes had risen. Karen's voice broke through the hustle once more. Sarah, could you prep the room for Mr. Harris's procedure? It's very straightforward, but I need you to do it alone this time. The words crackled in the air like an electrical charge, leaving no room for retreat. The confident assertion she had uncovered yesterday flickered momentarily before drowning in a swell of anxiety. Of course, Sarah replied, masking her unease with a smile. She took a deep breath and moved toward the designated room, repeating words of encouragement in her mind. She was not just a trainee, she was evolving into a vital part of this community. As she stepped inside, the sterile scent of antiseptic assaulted her senses. The bright lights overhead illuminated every detail of the surgical instruments laid out meticulously on the tray. Her confidence faltered. What if something was missing? What if she overlooked an important step? These thoughts spiraled in her mind as she methodically began organizing the instruments. In her frantic preparation, Sarah noticed a blood pressure cuff lying on the counter, forgotten and neglected. It was a small detail with potentially large implications. Had she completely forgotten about it in her nervousness? The presence of the cuff was a reminder of the potential repercussions her oversight could have. In a profession where every action mattered, she felt the pressure coiling tighter around her chest. Rather than succumb to the anxiety, she allowed it to fuel her determination. Focus, Sarah, she thought, reminding herself of the importance of diligence. The momentary doubt transformed into a sharpened clarity as she double-checked her setup, ensuring no instrument was left behind and everything was ready for the procedure. Just as she finished, Karen entered the room, her eyes scanning the meticulously prepared space. "Look at you!" she exclaimed, a genuine smile spreading across her face. "I knew you could handle this." The praise, while lifting, also ignited a new fear. What if this confidence was merely situational? What if, under real pressure, she would fall apart? As if summoned by her doubts, the door creaked open. Mr. Harris shuffled in, a frail figure lost inside a hospital gown, a glimpse of vulnerability somewhere between acceptance and resignation. "Hi Mr. Harris, I'm Sarah, and I'll be assisting today," she began, her heart pounding. He nodded, eyes reflecting the weariness of his journey. As they connected, Sarah became acutely aware of the need for empathy and connection. This was not just about tasks and procedures, it was about people and their stories, each with a unique thread that intertwined with her responsibilities. As she took as vitals, a thought emerged: her clinical skills could only grow through patient interactions, through the stories shaped by defeat and victory alike. With each heartbeat, she realized, a lesson emerged. The connection as human beings was the bedrock of healthcare. In that moment, something shifted within her. Emotional resilience began to replace her lingering doubts, a burgeoning realization that she was part of this broader tapestry of care. But just as satisfaction began to settle in, an alarm blared in the distance, drawing attention away from their interaction. Sarah's pulse quickened in response, and her mind raced through the array of possibilities. "Stay here, Mr. Harris," she instructed, instinctively rising to move toward the noise. Was this a test of her newly discovered strength, or the beginning of a deeper challenge? The sounds grew louder, the urgency palpable, and with it came a wave of uncertainty. Would she stand her ground or falter when the pressure escalated? The prospect of being thrust into chaos ignited both dread and exhilaration within her. Each heartbeat pulled her toward the truth that she was on the brink of something in evolution she could not ignore. What awaited her beyond the door was unknown, but whatever it was, she was ready to confront it head-on. The moment had arrived for Sarah to truly discover if she could rise to the occasion when the safety net was stripped away. Would she take the leap? The siren of the alarm echoed in Sarah's ears as she propelled herself forward and flung open the door to the hall. The frantic hustle and bustle were a cacophony of life and urgency. Nurses darted back and forth, carrying equipment, while anxious families stood frozen like statues, overwhelmed by an impending crisis. Sarah felt the rush of adrenaline pump through her veins. This was the moment she had both dreaded and yearned for. "Stay focused, stay calm," she whispered to herself, channeling the strength that had been building within her since she embarked on this journey. She spotted Karen at the end of the corridor, coordinating efforts among medical professionals. The sight offered a flicker of reassurance, prompting Sarah's heart to quicken with purpose. Involuntarily, she moved into action. "Where do you need me, Karen?" she called, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. "Set up the crash cart in room 4. Karen's shout broke through the chaos. Without hesitation, Sarah dashed through the corridor, each step affirming that she was no longer the passive observer, she was a participant in this life-and-death dance. As she gathered supplies, she felt the weight of her doubts lift, transforming into focused energy. She aligned herself with purpose, harnessing the skills she had painstakingly developed, the compassion growing stronger with each interaction. Moments later, she was inside room 4, setting up the crash cart with precision. With every tool she placed neatly, she recounted the importance of being prepared not just in skill but in heart. Suddenly, the dreaded fear of failure transformed into a realization. Preparation wasn't merely delineating tasks, it was embracing the emotional gravity of her role in healthcare. The rapid heartbeats from the chaos of the hallway intermingled with the calm she found deep inside her. She could feel it, she was now an integral part of the healing process, the very essence of nursing woven into her purpose. "Sarah!" Karen's urgent tone called out, pulling Sarah from her focus. I need you to assist during the resuscitation. Can you handle it? Yes. She replied, her voice laced with a newfound confidence. The tense atmosphere of uncertainty surrounded them as they worked together over the patient in distress, a young man who had collapsed. The heart monitor's rapid beeping punctuated every moment, urging them on. Acting swiftly, Sarah recalled her training instinctively, monitoring vital signs, counting compressions, offering reassurance to the team and the patient's family. Her hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from excitement, a blend of adrenaline and the realization that she could rise to meet the needs of others. Every action flowed seamlessly, sinking as if she had always been destined for this role. Good. Karen praised her between breaths. Remember to keep your focus. You're doing great. With every beat of the heart monitor, Sarah felt a symbiotic connection to the patient. Every breath they fought for became her fight too. She completed her tasks methodically, engaged, and feeling alive in a way she had only imagined. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the crisis subsided. The nurses resuscitated the young man successfully, and the relief in the room was palpable. Applause throbbed through the room as the collective effort of the team echoed in celebratory shouts, a symphony of survival. In that moment of triumph, Sarah realized the truth: this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the responsibility she carried to serve and heal. The culmination of her journey, the hurdles, the setbacks, the self-doubt had forged a new identity. She wasn't merely a waitress or a hesitant volunteer, she had risen to be a capable future nurse, one with passion, empathy, and an unwavering commitment. As the adrenaline began to ebb, Sarah felt recognition wash over her as well. Karen pulled her aside, her voice filled with pride. You showed incredible strength today, Sarah. You're truly becoming a remarkable nurse. That validation solidified her transformation. The mounting pressure had revealed her true potential, and for the first time, she could envision the career she had always dreamed of, not as an outsider, but as someone who would contribute meaningfully to the narrative of healthcare. As the day concluded, she paused before leaving the clinic, the echoes of her journey resounding in her heart. She stepped outside, took a deep breath, and gazed up at the sky. The clouds that once loomed heavy now drifted away, revealing a glimpse of sunlight. In that moment, empowered and illuminated, Sarah understood she hadn't just learned to navigate her new path, she had conquered it. With clear resolve, she looked forward to her future, ready to embrace every challenge ahead. Now, are you ready to embrace your own transformation? Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support means everything. Comment your reactions and theories about Sarah's journey and what it means to you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. You need to support this channel for more inspiring stories of personal growth.